Okay, so Open Longevity. It's a community-based project which goes to unite like-minded people in order to accelerate the scientific process to fight against aging. We want to channel the energy of the people into effective fight against aging. How do we do this? Within the Open Longevity, we create projects and encourage others to create their own, which have clear instructions for anyone and clear ways to be involved for anyone, for a scientist, for a medical doctor, for a patient. Aren't we all patients when it comes to aging? For a scientific analyst, for an IT person, for an investor. So clear instructions for anyone. But before I go to any details, I'd like to emphasize this. What are our goals? Of course, we want the therapies for our own, within our lifetime. We're not ashamed to say that we don't want therapies for our children, but of course we do want it. But for us, it's very important. It's very strange that within the scientific community, within the scientific conferences, scientists don't talk about it. They're very distant from the science research they're talking about. We want these therapies to exist, and we want these therapies to be affordable. And for this to happen, we need this third point here, the exponential growth. The exponential growth of the amount and the quality of projects. And that's how we choose the projects we channel our limited resources into. We take a look at the project and we think, okay, if this is going to give the chain reaction to other projects to evolve, to other funding to evolve. Of course, we have problems. We all know about this. Funding, like anywhere in science and in longevity, it's dramatic. Clinical trials in longevity is very complicated. There's a list of problems there. And I'd like to talk about an interesting problem we have. So there's actually a list of very promising therapies we have, like 250 something geroprotectors existing on the market. You can go to any pharmacy and get those, but we cannot run clinical trials of those. It's not interesting for a farm company. We cannot do it the old way. And I'm not even talking about these things as diets, as physical activity, and so on and so forth. It's very popular within the healthy community to give advices about all of those things, but we don't actually have clinical trials-based information about diets, about physical activity, about all of these compounds, and we need clinical trials for these things. And of course, yes, though on the one hand we're poor as church mice, on the other hand, some of the people that do have funding, they have this vision of huge potential profit. And it makes them paranoid and closed, and it's not scientific at all. It's not modern. How do we interact? How we exchange the information? How do we accelerate the process if we're so closed within our, like, Calico companies, for instance? So how does this started, the Open Longevity? We changed our Science for Life Extension Foundation one day into a volunteer questionnaire. We've seen that a lot of people were very active on Facebook and on offline events. So a lot of people started to ask us, okay, how can I help? Of course, the overpopulation question is very popular still, but the other very popular was, how can I help? Okay, so we did that. In 2 years, 300 people signed up, more than 200 within the first 6 months when we did like, several posts on Facebook. But that's the problem. We needed an entire HR department to deal with all those people. The other problem is that we needed a clear list of simple tasks for those people. Most of them don't speak English. Most of them don't have any scientific background. But it would be a shame not to communicate with all of this community energy. And then we met Dima Vremenko. Dmitry Vremenko is the author of Nestarenie.ru. Nestarenie is not aging in Russian. This is the most popular blog within the Russian-speaking community. Dima writes affordable information, the proven information, what works and what's not in longevity. Pieces of advices for anyone. So we started our longevity school together, first as single lectures in Moscow, then as fully fledged off-site camps, even in Montenegro. And the other very popular question we had is this. Okay, so I've heard all these very interesting facts you just told me. Where do I get the recipes for the diet, and at what dosage should I take metformin? This is very clear that people not just interested in all those facts. We all know that they actually take all those drugs already. It's happening. It's happening, but they don't take any tests. They don't follow any protocol. They're not supervised by any medical specialists. It's chaos there. So our answer to that request was always, okay, guys, just wait a bit, just a few months. We will work out the design of an experiment, the protocol, and you will join us together. You will be supervised by a medical doctor, and we all will get some useful information from the trial. That's the slide I always show to our students. So what happens between now and then? Between now when we don't have the therapy and the moment when we do have it. Clinical trials is an inevitable step. It has to happen, but we all know that's problematic. So that's why clinical trials of anti-aging therapies at the expense of the subjects, of the patients, is our the main projects now of the open longevity. But I want to emphasize this. It's not just, we just change the sponsor here. It doesn't mean that we don't use any documents, that it's not professionally observed. Everything's done as it's supposed to be, like GCP tells us to. It's just the sponsor is changing. So the owner of the results is changing here. It will be the subjects of the trial. We also have several other projects in open longevity. It's clinical trials, diagnostics of aging, and schools are the three most important. We also have a list of others, like motivation, of course, is very important, volunteer program, SMM, and so on and so forth, but I will focus on the three first. When I talk about open longevity diagnostics, this is actually a list of tests, mostly blood work. It exists. You can go to a lab in Moscow and go through these diagnostics. How did we choose this test? First, of course, it has to be related to most common age-related diseases. Bless you. Second one, those markers, they have to be possible to correct. We have to know how to treat them. But the third very important point, it's not always, when you can correct the marker, it doesn't always lead to life extension. Well, some of you know it happens. So it has to lead to life extension. And using these 3 points, we created our open longevity diagnostic panel, but I want to say this first. This was created using the existing data on PubMed. Our scientific analysts, they've been just working through all the scientific publications on the existing clinical trials and observational studies and stuff like this. And most of these analysts wouldn't have the access to all this data without this project, the Sci-Hub. Maybe some of you know it. So thank you, Alexandra Elbakan, also. And this is the diagnostic panel. I'm not going to go through all the points here. Most of this is blood work, as I said, and plus the ultrasound in the left down corner and ECG. Of course, it's not complete. You can make it a bigger one, but this is the minimum that can be used, at least. I should probably clear that. In Russia, it's possible for anyone to go to a lab without any prescription of a therapist and do any tests at their own expense. It's an affordable service. We have hundreds of labs all over the country, all over Moscow. That's why it's working, probably. And we're working with this DNCOM lab in Moscow. It's a small one. The small ones are always the brave ones. 500 people within 1 year has gone through the diagnostics in just one lab. But we know there are hundreds of other labs in Russia. And as we're being active on social media and our list of tests, it's very public. So anyone can just go through the list and go to any affordable lab they have just close to their homes. We think that the people that gone through diagnostics is much more. So this is the price, €190 for now. We also written a book, Diagnostics of Aging, to start the dialogue with the specialists, with medical doctors and other scientists, of course. So these are two happy authors. The book it's paper, but it's also available in the electronic version. It's in Russian, yes, everything is in Russian, but you can, I think you can translate it with Google Translator, the electronic version. We also started the Biomarkers Improvement Championship. There's going to be the second champ in January. This is a motivational thing. So people are taking the tests and they using our therapy approaches, and some of them, yes, improve their diagnostic results. We not only have the opinion on our diagnostics, but of course we take a look at others. We go through them, we describe them. This is the list, probably this is the full list of all the diagnostics approaches there, and this is our analyst, scientific analyst, who's done all the job. So thank you, Alexei. So why is diagnostics so important? Of course, it's important for science. There's no clinical trials without the diagnostic panel, of course. And even if a person doesn't take part in clinical trial, going through diagnostics, we will collect the valuable data on aging. It's important for popularization and initiation because this is a very personal way of popularization. If you go through diagnostics, you're into it. And funding, yes, it's very important too. Well, this is our, we think so. We hadn't checked it yet. But we think that making a possible sponsor go through diagnostics, knowing how he can affect the results of his test and how it relates to his personal possibility to extend his lifespan, it works better than any talk. Well, let's check this then. The second project is schools. School Against Aging, that's the website. Everything's in Russian again, sorry, because we have Russian-speaking community. We've done several schools, several in Moscow, several abroad in Montenegro. So these are the speakers. They're different. The medical doctors, young scientists, academics, you know, Alexei Moskalev there. The students are just simple people, I'd say, but not only people without scientific background, so the information is easy to understand, but anyone comes. We have medical doctors as students, so anyone comes there. And what we have other very important point there, every statement on our slide, it has a link to the article. It's just, it's nothing, it's not that we invent something. Everything is based on some scientific research. So this is an example of the last one, of the last school in Montenegro in October. This is a list of lectures we've been doing for 7 days. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but if you're interested, what are the topics there? Yeah, you done? So this is the typical schedule. You can see we have physical activity every day. Of course, the lectures, and about the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, you cannot talk about the proven ways to extend your lifespan with foods and feed people with fried chicken or something. Everything has to be related to what we're teaching them, of course. So we developed our own diet. This is the food that people has been eating in this Montenegro thing. So if we're going back to the schedule, you can see that actually a person being at school, he's being exposed to a very mild anti-aging therapy. So that's why we encourage people to take tests to go through diagnostics before and after the school. And those people who actually go through diagnostic and show the high level of compliance during the school, they see the improvement of the results. That is very cool. So they're being in the pilot version of clinical trial within the school. Also, it's a way to meet people, of course. Here's Alexei Moskalev's post on Facebook. He's saying in Russian, of course. Well, I'm not going to talk about his scientific part here, but he's saying, thank you. to a sponsor that he managed to do some scientific work. And this is the sponsor, Nikolai Sidorov here. Guess where they met? So Alexei was a speaker at our school. Nikolai was the student. I'm sure Nikolai would never go to any scientific conference and sit through all the lectures, understand everything, take part in projects. He's actually, the picture is, he's taking a part of a project. So he's trying to invent his own approach to scientific research. It gives another level of involvement into the thing. So that's why I think they connected so well. So schools are ecosystem for longevity community. Of course, education, motivation, networking. We launch research there, as I showed with Alexei and Nikolai, and it's a pilot clinical trial. So people try to be in a clinical trial, and then they take part in the real ones. And it's also profitable, so you can actually do this, and it works. It's self-sustainable. So clinical trials is the main project now. So we have the website. Again, sorry guys, in Russian, but it has all the instructions for a participant, step-by-step. So this is the description of the diets. We started with the diets as the very safe way to treat people, because we experiment with the organizational part. That's why we didn't want to risk with the risky therapy. That's why the diets. Also, it's very pretty for people. They just love to take pictures of food and go through the recipes on Instagram. That's why we expect a lot of people to join. So this is the step-by-step instruction, what questionnaire to fill in, what tests to take before and after, everything. This is the examples of food they have. We treat people with, they get the personalized cookbooks. So they upload their age, their level of physical activity and BMI, and that's we personalize the amount of food they should have. What I want to say is that we're assigning the roles, but we don't say that, okay, we do it differently. The sponsor is Subjects Plus Open Longevity, us as an organization. We're trying to do some other funding here. This means that the subjects will have the results of the trials. This means that we refuse ourselves with the commercial interest here. This is very important. We don't want to be interested in any commercial result, to be open, to be objective here. And the CRO, of course, we will be the partly as a CRO here, as a contract research organization. And this is the essential documents. Of course, we do need to have those. Informed consent form. I think this is the most important one within the trials that are patient-oriented this much. And I'm saying that it has to be as close to GCP as possible, good clinical practice. Actually, there's no problem, because there are two main things in GCP they're based on: the safety of a patient and good quality data. We're interested in the same two things here. Just from a bureaucratical point of view, we will have to do things a bit differently. That's why I'm saying as close as possible. But the goal is the same. And we want to do it with medical specialists. So if I'm going back to the list of problems, lack of funding. Okay, diagnostics of aging is a B2C thing. It's actually can give you some profit to fund other research. Schools, as I emphasized, they're giving you some funding as well. And yeah, clinical trials are a bit more complicated because people pay for their therapies and pay for their diagnostics, but you still have some administrational costs and it's complicated. That's where we're looking for some extra money from sponsors. But still, it helps. And what about the third point? Yes, we're not looking at any profit here, we're a non-profit. That's why we're open. I'm getting questions and critique every day because we publish everything on our websites and on Facebook, and it's helping because we're working out some things that didn't work before. So I'm inviting you to do the schools, do the diagnostics, and do the clinical trials together if you want so. You can find me on Facebook. That's my picture on Facebook. That's it, I get.
Thank you so much. So, 2 quick questions. Maybe someone who hasn't asked a question. Oh God, Jose, I have no choice. You have the question.
Fantastic, and you are publishing now and doing this in Russian. I want to help you to do it in Spanish, and the same to Michael Greve. What he's doing in Germany, I want to do it for Spain and Latin America, because you are breaking ground with what he's doing in Germany and what you are doing in Russia. So how can I help you to do this in Spanish too?
Okay, if you want to do the schools, you just have to find the place to run the lectures, and that's it, actually. Anything else, we will provide it. We can organize the Russian people to come to Germany or to Spain, or if you find the local community as students, then you will have to help us with the local speakers to speak in the native language there. That's it. Anything else is quite simple, I guess. So it's a work to be done. We should communicate. That's it.
So Anastasia, yeah.
I
So as far as I understand that, according to GCP, you need still to be a medical organization to do clinical trials. Did you think of try to find just medical clinics, even like private one, to sign up and to do it according to all the rules, or do you think it's too hard for you for now?
Okay, so a sponsor doesn't have to be a medical organization. CRO has to be anything. As to a site, a hospital where you should take the patients, talk to them, sign the informed consent. Yes, it has to be done only with the medical specialists. That's true. We're hiring the IP now, the private, the investigator into the clinic. So DNCOM, the lab that I was talking about, they actually have small clinics in Moscow. So this would be our center for the start for clinical trials. For the trials of diets, the regulations are not so strict. So local ethical committee would be enough there. Yes, we've gone through the procedure. It looks doable. Yeah.